Let's get loaded on Lansdowne.
Right. Ooh.
Scottish accent thrown in there. By the way, what episode is this? 91, right?
91.
Welcome to episode 91 of the Loaded on Lansdowne Red Sox Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jacaris. Alongside me, as always, virtually, is Andrew Andrews.
All right.
And Andy, we had to take a little bit of a hiatus from the podcast. We would have liked to have podcast right after the World Series, but essentially my entire family was riddled with COVID-19.
You came down with the old Covo.
Yeah. So luckily it wasn't my immediate family, but my secondary family, literally everyone had it. So that was put a little wrench in our plans. So
Listen, it's not your fault. You really, really love motorcycles and just had to go to Sturgis. I understand. Listen, man, if there's a calling, you got to go. So you brought it back for your whole family. No big deal.
Can I tell you something honestly? And I'm not even joking. I have been to Sturgis for the bike rally.
Oh, God.
And it wasn't intentional. Me and two of my buddies were moving. Yeah, we were moving cross country.
Like you and Dana Carvey and his new summer blockbuster comedy.
It was like a movie. Like we left Massachusetts. We stopped at Amherst. Had a party with a couple of friends that were still up there from college that were still living up there. We took I-90 all the way west, right through New York, Chicago, Wisconsin, And as we're driving out there, like all these like bikers and bike trailers, and we're like, what the hell is going on? And I-90 brings you right to friggin' Sturgis. And it was probably about 2:00 in the afternoon when we rolled into when we were going past Sturgis, and we were like, holy shit, it's the Sturgis bike rally. And we're like, we have to get lunch here. Like we have to go to a bar, grab a couple of burgers and a couple of beers and just take in the sights and sounds. And it was, it's just heathen central, man. It's just anything goes, and the people
a lot of stocky women. You know what I mean? A lot
of busty women. There's a lot of
sturdy linemen.
Yeah. And there's a lot of women that shouldn't be in bikinis, but they're out there doing their thing. Tons of white beards. I noticed that about biker guys. They all have like white facial hair. I don't know if you have to be a certain age to buy a Harley. Like there's not a lot of 19-year-old Harley owners, I guess.
No, I don't know.
I guess they're expensive. I don't know shit about motorcycles, but I do know that I actually have been to Sturgis, and it's so funny that you brought that up, because that's like a feather in my cap that I never wanted.
No, that's not bad.
But so anyway, we're back, and everyone's healthy. Thank God. Everything's
good to hear.
We're going to do a little thing about COVID toward the end of the podcast, because there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. It's baseball related, but it's also life related. So we'll talk about that. So Andy, obviously we haven't been together in about a month or so, but obviously the number one news of the day is Alex Cora is back. And when we did our pre-show talk, I said I always knew he'd be back, and you called me out.
I said that's absolute bullshit.
Said that was bullshit, and then I kind of thought back and probably agreed with you, but then again, when the season went to shit, I think it makes a lot of sense that Alex Cora was brought back to bring in sort of these good feelings. And he never would have been fired if it wasn't for the Astros thing, when they knew he was getting a suspension anyway. But you have thoughts on Alex Cora, and it ties into a larger point that you have about who runs things for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, it's weird, because I do think he's a really good coach, and I'm glad he's back, and I always thought he would be back, unlike you, who clearly on these airwaves told me, no, they won't do that. Too much of a PR hit. But anyways, we'll move on. Okay. It's like I like the fact he's back, but I don't think Bloom wanted him. Like, I'm not even saying Bloom didn't want him. I think that Bloom, if he really is in charge and was getting to make his own decisions, there was the coach from Tampa that
right
who was now with I don't know if he was still with Tampa. There was someone involved from the Tampa organization who he was very close with, who I think was his number one. And is he in charge? Is what I want to know, because are we still having the ownership make decisions because they think Cora? Because dude, Cora is clearly better for the TV show.
Right.
Clearly better for the TV show.
Well, I think Cora,
still doing that.
I think Cora's better for the roster, right? But I know that dude from Tampa, was it Sam Fold? Is that the name?
That sounds right.
I think
that sounds right, but it's,
yeah.
I don't care. If Bloom is your guy, if he's the president of the baseball operations, if he's in charge, let him be in charge, dude.
But Andy, I think it goes back to, I think it goes back to Bobby Valentine in 2012. Ben Cherington, wanted, I forgot who his guy was. He had his guy.
Just some stick in the mud guy, I'm sure.
Right, some bench coach for the Seattle Mariners, played baseball development for the Pittsburgh Pirates, whatever the hell it was.
No, he'd wear a starter jacket buttoned up with his arm like this, and that's all he do. Yeah.
Right, and he's been in the minor leagues for like 40 years. But like the Red Sox brass wanted the antithesis of
normal.
No, Jesus, I'm freaking drawing a blank here. Terry Francona, Jesus Christ. They wanted the antithesis of Terry Francona, who was
so they brought in a madman.
Right, so who was like, playing cribbage with Pedroia, and everyone loved him. And they're like, no, we need to bring in a hard ass. So they brought in Bobby Valentine, the ultimate failure. I didn't understand the move at the time. And we have a good friend and colleague who was all for it. And I was like, why do you want this guy? And
he's the worst.
He was the worst. He was the absolute worst. Although he did sign an autograph for my kid one day, so I'll give him that.
No, fuck that dude. He'll sign an autograph for anyone who asks. He runs around asking people if they want autographs.
Can I sign your boob?
Hey, how's it going? Can I sign your face? Hey,
So yeah, but I think that the players' reaction to him being rehired says everything you need to know about Alex Cora. The players love him.
I know.
That's a main part of the job for a Major League Baseball.
I agree, and that's why it's a weird kind of feeling I'm having, because I do think he's the right person for the job.
Right.
But if the guy who's in charge wanted someone else, you got to let him be in charge. Like, what's the next decision they make?
Right.
When does Carl Crawford into the outfield again? It's like it's.
Right. Well,
let's bring back Sandoval. He had a couple good at bats.
Man, they wanted him to be good so bad so they could sell like panda stuffed animals and all that shit. But to your point, what is the deal with the Red Sox brass treating their general managers kind of like children on some level, right? They're like, hey, listen, like, you're hired, but we're going to see what you can do before we give you full reins over the operation.
No, you're right about that. And it's like, well, you can make decisions, but really, we're going to make the big decisions. It's
yeah. And
every time it seems like when they exert their power, it just gets in the way.
Yep, it gets in the way.
It's really going to be a bummer if Alex Cora doesn't work out, because just this bad voodoo jinx that they have, you know what I mean?
Well, let's look at it objectively, right? Like he had one like out of the park stupendous year where they had the best record like ever as a team, and then they won the World Series.
Some would say they knew what pitches were coming, but maybe that was just, I don't know.
Right, maybe. But like 2019 was a disaster. As far as that goes. So who knows? So whatever. Direction moving forward, Andy. Okay. What should the Red Sox do? Should they go after big ticket free agents? Should they stick with some sort of, is there a plan to develop players, develop pitchers, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I'm going to outline a couple of things, and then you can tell me what you think, right? Number one, here's your rotation going into 2021. This is if things don't change, Okay,
TBA.
this is who you're going in with.
TBA.
You're going in with Erod, who is evidently 100%. Okay, but he had the COVID and the mitochondriosis or whatever he had in his heart.
He had a big, like, somebody as big as him had a big heart. Like,
yes,
it's a big heart.
Yep. So he had that going on, but he's going to be a number one in theory. And he hasn't been injured lately, so I'm not worried about, the COVID thing isn't an injury. He just got sick, right? So I'm not worried too much about that. You have Nathan Eovaldi, who gets hurt every year, so he's your number two. Okay. After that,
No, Joe, Erod's not your number one over Eovaldi.
I think so.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but no, if both guys are healthy, I mean, your guy throwing the gas.
1A, 1B, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And then, yeah, maybe.
Then you got Tanner Houck. He's your number three as of right now. What did he pitch? 4 games. I mean, he had a great 4-game stretch. But as of right now, he's your guy at the number 3 spot. And then you have Nick Pivetta as your number 4, and then you have the TBA as your number 5.
Sale is what, June?
Sale is I wouldn't even say June. I would say All-Star break.
Really?
I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, in my estimation, the 3 positions that they need are starting pitcher,
yep,
second baseman, and they need an starting outfielder because JBJ, I mean, if they re-sign him, which I think is doubtful, and I actually don't want them to re-sign him.
I think they're gonna. I don't want them to, but I think they're gonna.
Because I think they can get someone better or comparable for cheaper because he's a free agent. He's going to want some money, and they're going to crunch stats and whatever.
I think they like him for the TV show, dude.
Yeah, possibly. So they need an outfielder, they need a second baseman, and they need a starting pitcher. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, do you bring in a guy like Trevor Bauer and pay him that money? I know that some people are saying, right? I'm reading on Facebook groups and everything else. People are saying like no, like you don't bring in Trevor Bauer because Chaim Bloom's he did all this development with the Tampa pitching. Well, that's like kind of a couple of years away, man. I mean, if Tanner Houck can make it happen, but he didn't even draft Tanner Houck, so it's like,
I don't know, man. Though I don't know if I can take Trevor Bauer.
Yeah,
he is.
He's a personality.
No, he's a fucking asshole, dude. Give me that personality shit. He is a flaming douchebag. He cut his hand to the World Series because he loves his drones. I mean, like, dude, fuck Trevor Bauer. I know he can throw the ball. I really do, but it's just
the Cy Young Award, dude.
I know, but
makes your staff instantly credible.
He sucks.
And then if Chris Sale comes back, now you're looking at Bauer, Sale, Erod, Eovaldi, and then I mean that's legit. I don't know.
It's like a bro dude, David Price. You know what I mean? He's like a fraternity David Price. He really is. He's a fucking fraternity bro dude who thinks like he has a PhD and thinking about stuff.
It's like, dude, I think about stuff. I think, therefore,
like he'll have 3 games.
Descartes. Let's talk philosophy.
And he'll start talking about how at the ice caps that there's been a 3.2 degree temperature raise in the last 150 years, man. And you're talking about my changeup. It's gonna be like,
yeah, I am talking about your changeup because that's what you do.
I just love drones. I'm gonna play with my drones. I mean, that's what I love.
So what do you think? Because here's the thing. I'm gonna break.
What do I think? He's a fucking asshole.
All right, so you don't want him. You don't want to give him the money.
No, I don't think I can do it. I can't do it. I might rather suck than that guy. I don't know.
Do you want to? You want to give DJ LeMahieu the money at second base?
Yes, I do.
I do too. I think they should. That's been a position that's been a disaster for the past couple of years. Dustin Pedroia ain't coming back. He's done. He's not retired. People are like, why doesn't he retire? Because he's gonna make a bunch of millions of dollars, you jackasses. You wouldn't retire either. It's so stupid. So I think you give LeMahieu the money, although he's linked to the Nationals right now. How about Ozuna from the Braves? He's a free agent. They're talking about maybe.
I didn't know he was a free agent.
Yep, they may be talking about him in the outfield. I say no. I say no on that. I think you should go out and re-sign Kevin Pillar. I think he was a good fit here. You could move Verdugo over to center field, and you put Pillar out in right field. He's going to be way cheaper. You can sign him to a 2-year deal. He's a good player. He was a good fit here. I think that's the way to go.
I'd be able to keep him. I think he's way cheaper. I still don't want Benintendi even on this team either. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is like, that's why you may have to get Ozuna. I mean, we'll see what.
I think you might need 2 outfielders. I think you're right.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you may.
I think Benintendi might be your 4th outfielder this year.
Yeah, I mean, if they're ready to spend, you might have to go get an Ozuna and do a Pillar thing.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
Right. Erod is also talking about read today that he wants a long-term deal with Boston, and Chaim Bloom is talking about that. I have no issues with that. If you have a pitcher who has succeeded in Boston, I can't stand this shit where they don't give them the money. So in other words, I'm
not giving him big money.
No, I mean you give him a left-handed pitcher money, but not like not some sort of super contract. But I always prefer.
I give him like 3 years, $60 million, something like that. I think the idea of him for like 5 years or 8 years, I think is not great.
Well, he won't do that.
I want him for a 3-year contract with maybe some kind of options involved.
I don't understand, Andy, why players don't do bigger short-term contracts. Like they're always like, oh, I'm all about the security. It's like you're rich enough to move wherever you want, whenever you want, literally at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you take like a 3-year
and be smart with your money? And yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give you $35 million a year, but it's only going to be for 3 years. I mean, come on, man. How extravagant are you living, man?
I do think Erod's the kind of player, I think with his injury status, history and stuff, he's the kind of guy who could really cash in with short-term money.
Yep.
Big money short-term.
Great point.
Long-term with him is somebody who you're clearly eating for a couple of years, and he's not that good.
Right. Yep.
I don't think he's not good enough to eat years at the end of the contract. Dude.
No, God, no. All right, speaking of big contracts, the Red Sox do have a good thing going on because Rusney Castillo's contract, Andy, is up.
There you go.
The man, the legend, and I say this. This is not
the greatest minor league player ever, right?
I say this with no hyperbole, no ounce of sarcasm. Okay, that dude probably has had the best life of any baseball player ever, because
he's been the fucking coolest dude in Pawtucket for a while.
He got $75. He got a $75 million contract to play in Pawtucket for. He hasn't been in the big leagues for 4 years. The last time he was in the big leagues was 2016. And I think he only played in a couple. They had to bring him up that year because I think a couple of people got hurt. Yeah. I want to break down.
Hold on, though. Could you imagine his house? And I know he probably didn't live in Pawtucket, but just some random.
Why would he live in Pawtucket?
Just some random side street where there's little tenement. Roosty's house.
Well, you know what? For some reason, I picture Rusney actually just renting like a second story, not even like a third or a first, just the middle apartment in a Pawtucket tenement just to save money, even though he has more money.
Just living in some place that's like $1,200 a month.
Just like mattress on the floor, right? A fridge with like some bottled water and like a case of Bud Light possibly, but he just goes out all the time. That's Rusney's life. So I'm going to break down Rusney Castillo.
He now owns the left half of Cuba.
Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who don't know, Rusney Castillo was signed to a $75 million contract. He played in the big leagues from 2014 to 2016, but 2016 was an I think he only played
The big leagues.
30-something games, right? So 2014, 2015, he was like kind of a real Major League Baseball player. Okay. But he got a $75 million contract. I'm going to break down his career stats. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
He hit 262 in the big leagues. In the big leagues. Okay. He hit 262. He hit 7 home runs and he hit 35 RBIs.
God.
In 300.
Not good.
In 337 plate appearances in the big leagues. Okay.
Not many.
Now, your average full year in the big leagues is about 600 plate appearances.
Yeah, no, he played.
In 3 years, he
played through the All-Star break.
Yeah, he pretty much got half of that, right?
He was a starting player to the All-Star break.
Right. So this is how it breaks down monetarily, and please forgive me if my math is wrong, but I think it's pretty right. Okay.
I'm not checking it.
He hit 7 home runs, which means he got paid $11 million per home run. He had 35 RBIs in his major league career, which meant he got $2 million per run batted in. Right? And this is the great one. He had 83 hits in the big leagues. 83 hits in the big leagues. He got $900,000 per hit. That's the stats to salary breakdown for Rusney Castillo.
And they just had to have him.
Yeah. That was Theo, right?
That was the end of Theo, yeah.
Yeah. Right? He was like hell bent on this guy.
That's when they got in trouble for like international money spending or something like that.
Well, yeah, it was Castillo, and then they traded for Cespedes, if you remember. That was like the big thing. We were gonna have this like all-star Cuban outfield, and like Castillo sucked, and Cespedes was traded.
Yeah, Cespedes, it was weird. Like he was better other places. I don't know.
Yep. Wasn't good for us. Anyway.
That's for a while, right?
Yeah.
And he hurt his ankle fighting wild boars.
He's like a weirdo cowboy.
Like, that's real. Like, I didn't make that up.
No, he does weird shit, dude. He does weird shit. All right, Andy. Kim Ang, first female executive.
It's nice.
For the Marlins. Breakthrough. I think it's great, but of course, people go to Twitter and they do the Ruth Conda, hashtag Ruth Conda forever. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's people making up stories about things that their kids say when something like some social justice thing or someone rises to the top, and it's like, yay. And a bunch of baseball execs were saying, I told my daughter asked me, can I be a big league exec now? And it's like, now you can, baby. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that never happened because she's 2.
On November 4th, my son woke up and said, Daddy, is the world fixed yet? It's like,
exactly, right?
No, that didn't happen. Shut the fuck up.
It didn't happen. None of this ever happens. I actually told my daughters, my daughters go to baseball games. Well, Sophie goes to baseball games with me. Isabel is like, whatever. She's a soccer girl. Care less about baseball. But I told Sophie, I said, hey, there's a first female executive in Major League Baseball. What do you think? She goes, cool. And she grabs grabs a snack and goes upstairs.
Yeah, that's about right.
Listens to music. Like she I think that's a more authentic reaction to this than the Twitter people. But hey, look, I looked at her resume. She's on point and she deserves the job.
Oh, she's been involved for a very long time. It's awesome.
Yep.
Best person for the job should do the job. So
Yep. And you're exactly right. She worked for the Yankees, a couple other teams, but this whole thing of these people make it about themselves and not about her.
Don't make it too much of it. Yeah,
Right. That's the point that we're trying to make here, guys. We're not trying to make fun of the fact that a female executive was hired. We're making fun of the fact that people are going on Twitter and like making it about their kids being like, oh, finally now I can be a baseball executive, like, and the kid's 4 years old. You know, it's ridiculous.
It's dude,
it's self-aggrandizing, and it takes away from her. That's the whole point.
The world changes little things at a time. So like people have to stop making such a big deal about one thing. You know, if no other female ever gets hired, then this doesn't matter. So it's great. It's a start, but it's kind of like, let's let it happen.
So when the first fish like jumped on the land, like if a big fish, some tadpole turned to her dad and be like, "Dad, does that mean I can crawl now?"
Yeah, you know, like. If a fucking rock fell right on that thing, guess what? It didn't happen. So let's, let it happen.
Yep. And I think baseball's really, and I know there's a coach for the San Francisco.
Next year when the Marlins are like 34 games under 500.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey, they made the playoff. I mean, she wasn't the executive at the time, but no. The Marlins made the playoffs, and the Red Sox didn't. Let that.
Yeah, right.
All right, moving on. Dodgers win the World Series, and again, I think the last time we podcast, they were about two games away from doing it. We had planned to do a podcast right after that, but we had a bunch of issues in my house. But the Dodgers win. I just want to go over Mookie Betts' stats. So in the World Series, he hit 269, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. Everyone's like, he can't make it happen.
There was MVP talk at the beginning of this series.
Yeah, and I mean,
fire.
But I mean, and by the way, a lot of those numbers came in the last game.
Yeah,
he had a great last game. Didn't do great. Mookie Betts in all playoff appearances, 258, 3 home runs, 12 RBI. For his career, which is 2016 with the Red Sox, 2017, 2018, and then this year with the Dodgers. Not great. I mean, still love him as a player. I'm not gonna
stop it. He gave a second place for the MVP voting in the National League this year. Well, he's an absolute force.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Red Sox, it's still, I think it's a big, I don't think they had a chance to sign him. So I'm not saying it's a big miss for the Red Sox for not signing him. I think it's a big black eye on the fact that guys don't want to I'm not saying they don't want to play in Boston, because I think that's more of an exaggeration, but they're not dying to play in Boston.
You know what's weird, Andy? And again, it's like, go into like, identity politics. It's almost as if Dominican players love playing in Boston.
Yeah.
But African-American players don't like playing in Boston.
Yeah, there could be something to that.
And I used to work in Jamaica Plain.
Yeah.
Huge Dominican population over there. And, being a Red Sox season ticket holder for 20 years, like when Pedro Martinez pitched.
Oh, it took over the whole area.
It was awesome. I mean, the flags, the drums, the bandanas, the whole Dominican thing. It was such a great vibe. And the Red Sox have done a great thing culturally with Dominican players and players from the Caribbean, I think, in general.
Yep,
and
I think so.
It just hasn't translated to like straight up like African American.
No, there might be something to do that.
And I don't know why that is.
Going all the way back to Jim Rice. I mean, there was issues. There was
Yeah, and it's sad, and I think that to talk about Mookie Betts, I think they should have signed him. As far as like, because right now on your roster, Andy, there are 0 African American players on the Red Sox roster.
Yeah, but Jackie, we'll see. But,
he's not though. He's a free agent.
Yeah, that's true. But I think they offered him enough money that, you know what I mean? From those rumors that have come out recently, the whole Michael Felger thing.
Yep.
I think they made it fair and offer a legitimate Mike Trout type offer, and he was not interested.
Yep.
So it says more about, the situation than them actually trying to do it. It's not like they were like, oh, we're not going to pay him.
Right.
I think they were.
Yeah, this wasn't a John Lester thing where they lowballed him.
No, I mean, the Celtics are having. I mean, that's on record trouble with getting people to come here and play, and that's obviously that's mostly African American people. So I mean, there's something there, man.
I just and I don't buy in the narrative so much that we've talked about this before on the podcast. I don't buy into the narrative so much that Boston is racist, as much as I buy into the narrative is of like there's not a culture there. There's not a scene there where players of color feel comfortable. Does that make sense? And I think that's why it translates better for the Dominican people, because I know there are neighborhoods in Boston that that are that. I don't know. I think that must be it, right? I mean,
there's a lot of African American people in Boston living there, so you figure that there could be some kind of epicenter culture, and it just
doesn't translate, right?
No, it really doesn't, and it's too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Especially especially when it comes to athletics, and football is a different animal. It's like football players don't have these guaranteed contracts, so they're
hired guns wherever
they take what they can get, and they go and they do what they can. So it's not
football players almost always take as much, besides Tom Brady ever. Right. Football players take the highest bidder.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter. All right.
And hockey players are white.
Yeah. So getting to the Dodgers. So the Dodgers win the World Series. In the middle of the last game, Justin Turner was pulled because he tested positive for COVID. He did a test before the game or whatever, and it was a couple hours turnaround. He ended up testing positive, and then he gets pulled from the game, has to go into the clubhouse. They're like, he tested positive. Dodgers win. He goes back out on the field, all right, and takes the picture with the team.
Right next to cancer survivor David Roberts, yep.
Right. He's out there with the team. There's camaraderie. He's not wearing, like, no one's wearing masks. All right. So, he was, people were kind of pissed about that. Major League Baseball kind of was like, hey, like they won, so it's like everyone.
We're gonna do an investigation.
Yeah, everything was, and some of the players were like, yeah, we were cool with that. So this is my COVID is politics kind of speech here. I think that situation is why everyone right now is kind of like, what's the deal with this? Right? Because you're saying one thing, and a couple of football players have come out and said that the NFL's COVID stuff is a joke, because of course they go out there and they play and they're hugging and there's no face masks, and like we don't know what happens when they go into the locker room. I'm sure like the coaches are wearing face masks, but I'm sure those things are off the second they get in the clubhouse when there's no cameras around. So it's like, I think the issue people are having are like, you're telling us to do things, and then we're seeing other things.
Well, Gavin Newsom getting the picture taken at the big party. I mean, yeah, it keeps happening again and again. But dude, Justin Turner is such a douchebag. Like, he is that pretend hardo baseball player is just the worst.
Yeah.
David Beckham, it's just like,
the
baseball, dude.
The whole thing with like, he's like, well, I had to go out there and celebrate with my teammates. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You have COVID, dude. Stay. At least stay in the locker room. And when they all come in, then you guys can start, grabbing each other's balls.
Yeah, meet him in the locker room.
Giving a little reach arounds or whatever. Keep it in the locker room, dude, because you're giving baseball swept that shit way under the rug as usual. By the way,
now
they were like, wow. I mean, wow.
Though that was definitely a glaring situation. I think if you take that game, the probably more important moment and the more snapshot of where the league is right now is friggin' them taking that blood disease bastard out of that game. Only 72 pitches in with 2 hits is just an absolute snapshot of what is wrong with Major League Baseball.
Yep. Absolutely.
That was atrocious.
All right. Anywho, last thing. Jason Varitek is hired by the Red Sox as an official coach. He is the game planning coordinator. And this is a new.
They hired someone else too. They hired
Ramon bench coach. Jesus.
No. That wasn't his official title. His official title was like quality control or something like that. Oh, what was it? Ramon something. He was an old player, but he's like the officer of quality control.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
What the fuck is that?
But
I like Varitek. I like him being involved.
Well, yeah, I do too, because if I'm looking at the the game planning coordinator title.
That's his strength.
That's what he did the best, right? I mean, there's no there's no coincidence that he's the catcher who caught the most no-hitters. Out of any catcher in Major League Baseball history.
I always thought like him and Kurt Schilling were just the perfect duo as far as game plan and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There was 2 guys who really took that part of the game seriously.
Right. And I mean, I think back to Derek Lowe's no-hitter, which I attended. After the game, Derek Lowe said, I didn't Derek Lowe said I didn't shake him off once.
Yep.
So I mean that goes to show you that like they trusted him and he was a good planner. So hopefully, they can get some pitchers in there, and then Varitek can work with them and change the culture of the pitching staff of the Boston Red Sox.
I think it's a good move to have him involved.
Awesome, man. All right. So you got anything else, Andy?
Yes, I do. I was talking about the Blake Snell thing and about how that was a terrible decision. And, I think that really leads into those, if you heard the comments from Theo Epstein.
Oh, yeah.
About the state of baseball and about how, he really feels that he almost kind of took a blame for the analytics really, really ruining what's on the field. I mean, do you see him as being the commissioner someday?
Theo Epstein?
There's been some talk.
Ooh. I'd love to see that. I think he'd be great for the game. I want to see Theo Epstein go one of 2 places. Well, actually one of 3 places. I would love to see him go to Cleveland and be reunited with Terry Francona. And
that'd be romantic. That's
I think the Indians, out of all the teams that have won a World Series, I think that the Indians are the team that like their drought is the longest.
Yeah, they are now. But Theo's just the man who fixes that.
Yeah, but I think the Indians won in like 1948. I think that was their last World Series.
Yeah, no, it's been.
So I think that would be fun. I would also like to see him go to some of the teams that haven't won a World Series. So we're talking. I think it's only the Texas Rangers and the Seattle Mariners. And here's what I want. I want Theo to go to Seattle, and I want the Seattle Mariners to change literally everything about themselves, and especially their uniforms, because I was watching an old Seattle Mariners game today for a little bit, where Ken Griffey Jr. came back to Seattle after he was traded to or after he signed with the Reds.
Yep.
The Seattle, and I've been saying this forever, the Seattle Mariners uniforms are so awful. They're the worst uniforms in professional sports.
They're good hats, though.
Everything needs to change about they are so drab. It's like muted blue and muted green.
Yeah, they're fishermen. They're out on the sea, and
I agree.
Yeah. My wife agrees. She just said the Seattle Mariners uniforms are horrible. I mean, you have the Seahawks who are like, bam, right? The fluorescent, that fluorescent green, yeah.
Right.
I mean, come on. We have to do something here. I mean, if you have to go powder blue, like old school, go powder with the Trident. Come on, bring back the Trident. Do some powder blue. Let's go.
All right.
All right. This is what we get fired up about on a Saturday night during COVID-19.
Exactly.
All right. So that's it for episode 91 of the Loaded on Lansdowne Boston Red Sox baseball podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jacaris. Alongside me, as always, is Andrew Andrews, and we will see you next time.
Peace.